Welcome back, Lit Up fam. It's your girl Pearl. We are back on the Your Lit Up Life podcast, and I have such a special guest today. Her name is Amanda. We connected over on Instagram through the No Fun Club through Evan. If you haven't heard about that, that's okay. But you're gonna learn more about the amazing work she does, and we're gonna talk about all the good stuff about thriving, partying, being healthy, and being intentionally sober, and all the good stuff. So please introduce yourself, and we'll get started.
Hey guys, my name's Amanda. Thank you for that beautiful intro. Yeah, we were just chatting before we started recording, that it's really cool to connect with people on the internet that you haven't met before. This is actually our first real full conversation. And so I'm really excited to, yeah, see what comes up and what I've been doing. And yeah, I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, so happy you're here too. I love connecting with internet friends and talking about all the juicy things. So I would love to start with like what you do, what you're all about, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, totally. Well, so I created this thing called No Fun with Evan, who I think you just kind of mentioned. We basically created, it's a online space right now. Our intention is to bring it into the real world. But essentially we are working with people. We're building a community of intentional partiers. So very, very similar to what you're doing, Pearl. Our goal is to guide people back towards more meaningful social lives by connecting back to fun. And through we do a series of, we run different challenges, we do one-on-one coaching. We're actually building out an app right now. And so we're trying to, our goal is to get all of the intentional party people in the world on one platform and using it almost as a space for, ideally it's like, okay, if you're going to DC, you're going to New York, or even internationally, you're going anywhere, you could pop on this space and be like, hey, what's good in Miami this weekend? And you can find like-minded people that are ready to party with intentionality. And yeah, and our goal obviously is to get offline, right? Is that we want to be present, we want to be in the moment, but also recognizing the power of community and connection that we can form on a digital platform. So that's No Fun. And outside of No Fun, I am in the process of building out an entire brand. It's going to be called Amanda Fest, which is kind of like a play on manifest and festival and my name, Amanda. And that's like the umbrella of a lot of seeds that I'm planting right now. I'm actually going to be starting a podcast pretty soon here. I'm working on finishing my 200-hour yoga teacher training. So I'm excited to start having some offerings, kind of similar to what you do in some capacity, just really combining and bringing my true essence to these spaces where I'm all about intentionality and partying and that you don't really have to choose between mindfulness and wellness and fun and play and wildness. It can be all of the things. And so, yeah, I'm really excited to be here and excited to just keep growing.
Oh my gosh, there's so much I love about that. Like what you just shared is so beautiful. And actually, we have very similar ideas about bringing people together. I have a very similar idea for a bio rave app I want to create too. And just like I love that people are just more open to things like this and like creating spaces for intentional partying because play is so important to us. And I love your twist on manifest, like Amanda Fest and festivals. And it is such a vibe. And so I'm curious actually, what inspired you and Evan to create this? Like, what gap did you notice in the party scene? And like, why were you so passionate about creating this movement?
Yeah, so I'll say so. Evan brought me on. I met Evan at a party, and we reconnected because he invited me to join his podcast almost a year ago now, and he and I had a conversation about intentional partying, and it was so amazing. At the end of it, he had been trying, he's been doing his own party coach thing for a really long time. Party coach is his he is the self-proclaimed world's first party coach, where he's helping people, a lot of people with like substance abuse issues, but beyond that, just really like basically what I was saying before is like helping people overcome social anxiety and learn how to re-enter into the party scene, party space with more intentionality and integrity. So he had been doing that for a while. He'd been doing one-on-one coaching and group programs and all these things. And he had this idea for this thing called No Fun, like KNOW. And so when he and I had our podcast, it went so well. I was in between jobs at the time. I had, very long story short, I back in last year in May, I was working in entertainment. I quit my job. I packed up my apartment. I got a one-way ticket to Europe and I started traveling. Then I came back to the States and was just in a process of trying to figure out, okay, what's my next move? What do I do? But the entire time I was traveling, every time I dropped into conversation with essentially anyone, they were like, do you do this professionally? Like, do you coach? Is this something you're interested in? And I I was and I am, but I just was feeling like that imposter syndrome of who am I to coach people? I still have so much to learn and so much growing to do. But I was really feeling that ping to step into the coaching space. And meanwhile, while I was traveling, I was doing festivals all around the world. I went to Tomorrowland, I went to Ultra in Croatia. I was like doing the festival tour in Europe, having the time of my life. But then when I spoke to Evan, it was like, No Fun sounded like the culmination of these two spaces of like working in the coaching, mentorship space and talking about partying and having fun. And when we had our conversation, it was, I look back on our podcast now and it's so funny because I speak out loud what I'm doing now, right? Where I'm like, I would love to be someone that helps people learn how to have fun all the time and how to drop into play and joy. And I'm like talking about all this. And then now a year later, I've been doing this work and it's been so cool and amazing. And the imposter syndrome has gone away only because I show up to these spaces with so much honesty about, hey, I'm not here and you're here. We're all in this together. I'm sharing with you what I'm moving through and also what I wish I had when I started this journey. So I also have a lot of friends in the coaching space, and one piece of advice they gave me is, you would be the best coach for you a year ago, right? And so looking at people like that who are ready to step into intentionality, but don't quite know how to do it and are feeling alone and feeling lost and feeling uncomfortable, I'm like so grateful that I get to help create spaces to hold people in that transition. And so Evan brought me on. This has turned into a very long tangent, but Evan brought me on after that podcast. We ended up bringing on two other partners, Alyssa and Ben. So No Fun is the four of us, our like little brainchild. And we've been iterating on it and creating it and being patient with it. And, we'd run a challenge and then we'd take a break. And again, too, the four of us came together on the internet. I just met Ben for the first time in real life, like a month ago. I've never met Alyssa in real life. And yet the four of us have been building this business together for almost a year now. And it's just amazing. It's so cool. And I just am so grateful and feel so honored to be doing this work and then attracting people like you who are also on this path, and just seeing how much appetite there is for this space is unbelievable.
Oh my gosh. I love that you manifested that job for yourself and just like were able to
Crazy.
like get into the space you wanted to and doing combining your passions. And I also love that you did that Europe. Like I want to go do all those festivals in Europe too. So I mean that's a separate conversation we can have later. But I really think it's beautiful and powerful. Like your like intentionality, like you're saying, like being intentional about what you speak and what you where you put yourself in the spaces you go into. And like you never know what could happen. And so it's really cool to see you create this for yourself. Now, I would love to dive more into intentional partying and what that looks like for you or what that means for the no fun community, and also talk about like your relationship with substances and being sober or not, or like what that looks like when you party. So yeah, we'd love to talk about that.
Yeah, totally. So with intentionality, my favorite thing to do is set an intention. Really fucking simple. But like before I go out, I try to do this with myself, and I only really have friends that are open to this type of stuff, so I'm not going to be around people that are like, ew, no. But I really like to set intentions as a ritual with myself and with my friends before going out, and really thinking about what am I. So I'll give a great example. I just was in Denver last week and I went to my first Red Rock show. And on the way there, and now people know when people go out with me, they're like, are we gonna set intentions? Like, are we gonna pull cards? Like, are we gonna drop in with our bodies? And like they know that I do this and they're like, do we get to do the thing? So it's kind of fun. But again, going back to that word ritual, I think that word ritual is so important because a lot of party culture is built around ritual, right? The ritual of doing shots, the ritual of toast, the ritual of all these things. And so, how can we create new rituals that have, I don't want to say good, bad, right, wrong, but just a different meaning than what they used to, right? So one thing, so like I said, so setting intention. So when I was in Denver, my friend and I were in the car ride on the way there, and we're like, what do we want to call in? And I'll drop into my body and I'll kind of like take a breath and I'll think about it and I'll really think about like what do I want? What do I want to feel tonight? And for me in that moment, I was like, magic, magic. I want to be the magic and I want to sprinkle magic everywhere. I want people around me. I want to exude magic, right? An example of an intention too, it's like, your intention can be, I really want to connect with this person, or I really want to drop in with the music, or maybe I want to meet someone. Maybe I'm feeling flirty or whatever that is, but just being clear because whatever it is that you go in with as your intention is, unless you set an intention, it's just going to happen. The night's going to unfold and that's great too. And moving forward with that, I continue to check in with myself as I go. And I continue to, how am I feeling? Am I comfortable in this environment? Do I like the people I'm around? Do I feel safe? And just constantly doing those self check-ins and adjusting accordingly, I think is a really big piece of like partying with intentionality and honoring that, right? It's like, okay, am I slowing down enough to tune in to where I'm at? And am I listening to it? Am I doing something about it? I was at Miami Music Week a couple weeks ago and I was at a show and the vibes were not for me. And I left. And it wasn't good, bad, right, wrong. It was just not for me. I wasn't resonating with the space. I felt it. I sat with it. I was like, all right, I'll give it another shot. I'll stay for another 30 minutes. And after that, I was like, I don't need to be here. I don't need to prove anything to anyone that I'm here. My friends love me and they want what's best for me. So they're gonna understand that I'm gonna leave and it has nothing to do with them, and just learning to honor that and follow that. Um, and then what was the other question?
We'll just pause
Did I
there because
answer your
that's
question?
so beautiful. That was so beautiful. And I think it's like also I have another question to tag on to that, but I also had the other question. So many questions coming through, but yeah, the honoring and checking in and taking the time and space. And I'm very much about that too. And just like seeing where you're at and then doing something about it. It's like, oh, I don't know if I feel great. Like, I don't know if I love this. And like instead of just ignoring it and just like staying and or like doing more drugs or drinking more, you're like, oh, okay, let's like assess this and maybe leave. Maybe I need to shift my energy. Maybe I need to take a break. Like, so I think it's so beautiful that you bring that intentionality to your practice of partying, and you also share with others. You're like, we're doing this ritual, we're dropping into our bodies, we're setting an intention together, because I think that's so beautiful. I do that at my parties too, so I love that you do that as well. And like, yeah, it's just so nice to hear that, and your friends are open to it and they're like looking forward to it, like, oh, are we doing the thing?
I
And
mean, so when I was in Tomorrowland this summer, I wound up, I could really need to write a book one day. Just have had the craziest experiences, but I wound up at Tomorrowland with a group of boys that I didn't know very well. One of them was an old family friend from like years and years ago. I had been dying to go to Tomorrowland. None of my friends were going to pull the trigger on it, and this guy was like, I'm getting an Airbnb, and I was like, fuck it, put me down for the Airbnb, I'm coming. His friends in advance too. He's like, Amanda's a wild one. She's gonna come and stay with us, but like she might not hang out with us. She'll probably arrive to the festival with us and we won't see her for the rest of the weekend. That's just her vibe. That's how she is. And that was sort of how we set up the expectations of the weekend. Cut to, I ended up spending the whole weekend with these boys. They were amazing and wonderful. But my favorite part of it was in the morning, I was doing my morning practice and I was saging myself, and I would sit with Hoppe in the morning and I would pull a card, and I was setting my intentions for the festival. And one of the boys walked in on me doing that. And he's like, what are you doing? Can I pull a card? And then all the boys ended up pulling cards. And it was amazing because throughout the day, they kept referring back to the card. One of them pulled like the macaw, and it was about like letting your, it was about like your feathers and letting people see you in your fullness. And there was a moment at the festival where he was like skipping and he was like, "Look, Amanda, I'm the macaw." And I was like, these boys are like my favorite thing to do. And what I think we're also doing with No Fun is really bringing like spirituality, woo woo, like namaste to normal people, and bridging that gap and normalizing it and making it cool and fun and relatable and digestible. And so seeing these boys who like probably have never like meditated in their life, probably never pulled oracle cards before, understanding and desiring to connect in that way was like, so cool.
Oh my God, that's such a beautiful story. Like, I love that so much, and that you're bringing that to those two worlds together, because I truly believe, I mean, we're all spiritual beings, whether everyone accepts it or not, and just energy speaks for itself. And so, like, it's just those little things people are like, ooh, drawn to that, and it just makes a different experience for the day. And I believe like music is a spiritual experience. Like,
Oh my
sometimes I
God.
like I will go out to an event or a show or a DJ. I'm like, that was spiritual. Like, I'm transformed, you know? It's just like, and everyone feels
Every
it.
time I see a DJ, every time I'm like dancing, there's always a moment where I'm like, you'll catch me in the middle of the dance or in the middle of the party, and I'm like, or like crying.
Yeah, music is literally so spiritual, like it's fucking epic. So I love that you bring those two together. Wow. Okay. So that brought me to another question. I'm gonna revisit the other question later. I want to know more about your rituals and the things you do in the morning practices. And is it just when you party or is it every day? I'd love to hear more about your practices and share them with the community and like what you do. That'd be so cool.
Yeah. So on a good day, because I will say, and by the way, I'll do a little plug. We're about to launch a 21-day habit challenge with No Fun that is going to be about instilling these daily rituals, these daily that we're doing. We're focusing on food, we're focusing on like dancing, cold exposure, journaling, all the things. But with that, I'll say like it ebbs and flows in seasons. There are periods and times where I am really good with my routines and I'm really good with my rituals, and those are the times in which I feel amazing, on top of the world, incredible. And to be fully transparent, and like I fall off all the fucking time, and I have to, and it goes like this. And I used to be really hard on myself whenever I wasn't doing things. And I'm now coming to a space of like grace and loving myself and knowing that these things are here for us and we can pick, and we know we can pick them back up, right? And just allowing that humanness. I had a friend, David Starhart, when I saw him this past summer after I'd been traveling for a while, and I told him I was feeling really ungrounded. And he looked at me like really deeply and he was like, "Have you been doing your morning practices?" And I was like, "Nope." And he was like, "That's why you feel ungrounded. It's not because you don't have a home. It's not because you're being nomadic. It's because you're not dropping in with yourself." So with that, when I'm good, I like to have really strong boundaries with my phone. So I would like to keep my phone on airplane mode until I start work. So I get up early and I move my body. I go to the gym. I work out. I'll I was doing circuit training for a while, and now I'm shifting it more into yoga because my body was like, we need a change. And again, tuning in, listening, shifting, adjusting as we go. But movement, I like to go be in nature and take a walk. I like to journal. Okay, I journal. I like to get out in nature. I I sit with hape, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with
Please
hape.
share more.
Yeah, okay. So hape is I'm gonna butcher the lineage of it. But it comes from like the tobacco plant, and it's like a ground up kind of like it's like a snuff. So basically I it's utilized a lot in ceremony, in different plant medicine ceremonies, and it is considered a plant medicine. But essentially it is something that aids me in dropping into my body. So it's a tool that helps me to connect and feel grounded. So I'll sit with that, and again, I'll go through phases where I'll maybe sit with it every morning, and then I don't feel called to sit with it for a really long time. And so again, listening to my body, really just shifting and adjusting as my body needs different things. But yeah, it's just a combination of nature, journaling, meditating really helps, cold exposure when I can handle it. And yeah, and really just trying to use the mornings to drop in and get intentional, right? And set my intentions for the day before allowing the outside noise to come in, before opening up my phone and going on Instagram and checking my email, and just really creating that safe and sacred space for my inner world prior to my external world getting in the way. Um, but
Mm-hmm.
again, like I said, I'll be really honest right now, and it feels weird talking about it because I haven't been doing that. And I know that's why I don't feel good, because I know that when I get back into that routine, which I'm about to, and I'm excited to do it with No Fun and with this community and with this accountability, um, I know because I've gone through the waves. Every time I get back into it, I feel like a different person entirely. So
Yeah.
highly recommend, and finding what works for you. Not being so, like, for me, rules and restrictions, I don't like them. I like to do whatever I want to do whenever I want to do it. And honoring that, having some sort of a structure and a routine that, okay, in the mornings, I'm going to do, this is the menu of options of things that I know will make me feel good. And I'm going to choose from the menu as I so please.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's my exact approach to my coaching with my clients, to my approach to myself too. It's exactly the same. Like you have all these tools and all these beautiful things you can use, and you need to tune in and also be very self-aware with what you need in that moment, what you need in the morning, what you need in the evening, right? And so I love your approach. I do a lot of those things too. It's just so grounding. It's such a beautiful way to just like get yourself in a really good state before you start your day, before things get hectic. And my morning routine is like, it's like my life. It's my non-negotiable. And I feel so good when I do it too. So I love that you shared that. Now, okay, you have morning routine like usually when you're feeling good. Okay, so I'm curious about partying. So when you're partying, then does anything change? You have your intention practice before you party. Do you do anything else before you party? I love to hear more about that.
I do similar things before I party. Sometimes I'll sit with Hape if I feel called. I'll drop in, I'll meditate, I'll set intentions, I'll pull cards. Really just anything that I can do to, or stretching. Oh my God, like getting physically into my body, and like especially when we dancing and partying, like I'll be the person in the corner like doing lunges. People are like, what the fuck is that girl doing? But yeah, really just priming my mind, body, and soul to be like, my goal when I go out now, where it used to be like utilize it used to, the mindset used to be like, let me go out to forget, let me go out to numb, let me go out to suppress. And now I'm like, how connected can I be tonight? How dropped in can I be? How present can I be? And intentional, right? Because there are some nights where I'm like, I don't even want to talk to anyone. I just am here for the music, and I don't want to, and people get confused because they see that I'm a party coach and they're like, oh, you're going to be talking to everyone and hanging out with, and I'm like, sometimes yes. And other times I want to be in my own energy. And I'm not judging myself for that. If I have a night where I'm not super social and I didn't make a ton of friends, that's fine, because that wasn't my goal. And so yeah, just continuing to like shift that and change that. And I think that number one thing is just like coming back to intentionality, coming back to dropping into my body and really tuning into myself, and not allowing the outside noise to affect my decisions. Not
Yeah.
allowing that peer pressure to stay out later, to indulge more, to, I'm really not going to do anything I don't want to do. Period. End of
Mhm.
story. Like,
Mhm. That is so good. I love, okay, so wow, my brain. Okay. Basically, you're amazing. I think The way you party is just so beautiful. That's how I party too. I want to hear how you got to that space though. I love to hear like a little mini transformation story. Like, okay, who were you before? What really helped you? Because I know a lot of people in my community, and I used to as well. I used to go out to party to escape. We used to go to, get fucked up and like all the things. And mm, I would have a hard time saying no, or like saying no to a free drink, or staying out later because my friends are. And then, so what helped you get to the place where you are at now, where you're like, I'm gonna do my thing. I'm not gonna stay out later if I don't want to. So love to hear kind of that.
Yeah, so I never really had any issue with substances. I'm very fortunate in that way, and I think that's why I think your earlier question was like, what's my relationship with substances? Um, I looking back now, I realize I drink more than I thought I did, but I never liked drinking. I never liked drinking. I always was the person where like I would go to a bar and hold a drink all night, and people would be like, and because I'm so loud and wild and crazy, people would just assume I was drunk. But most of the time I really wasn't. But I will say there was a period in my life, I know the exact like timeline. I went on this trip to Thailand in 2017, and that was like where my spiritual journey began. So I would say like pre-Thailand and post-Thailand life. Pre-Thailand, I was, I lived so many different lives. I did my late teens, early 20s, like clubbing in New York City, dancing on tables, like literally, like I was a promoter. I was at the clubs, like, oh my God. I really was like like I was on the Instagram when Instagram like just started, like a bottle girl, like um that was one life. And then that was in New York, and then when I was in LA, I was working in entertainment, and everything in entertainment revolves around alcohol. Even in like the agents' offices, they have bars, and when their clients come at 2 p.m., they're pouring drinks and like wild, crazy, just like lots of partying, lots of drinking, lots of exposure to substances and all the things. Um, and I did things that weren't in alignment with me for a long time, and it wasn't until this trip that I took to Thailand that really just shifted my mindset on everything. I went to this place called the Sanctuary, which is like on this little island in Koh Phangan. If you ever go to Thailand, highly recommend. But I just dropped into I had so many amazing realizations and revelations, and one of the bigger lessons that I came back with was, you become the 5 people you spend the most time with. And with that saying, it really made me evaluate, who am I spending time with and who am I becoming? And I was on that trip with 2 girlfriends. One was a newer friend that I had met in LA, and I was partying like crazy with her. And another one was an old friend from summer camp from like years ago. They didn't know each other, and they came on this trip with me. And my old friend looked at me towards the end of the trip, and after she had realized, and she was like, when I met your new friend in LA and I saw you, I was really worried, because I was like, did you change? Like, who have you become? And I just looked at this whole chapter of my life and just recognized, I was like, I'm not living in integrity. I'm and that ripples, right? Hanging out with people that aren't in alignment leads you to spending time in spaces that aren't in alignment, leads you to indulging in activities that aren't in alignment. And before you realize it, your whole life is not in alignment. Everything that you're doing, everything that you're about, everyone you're spending time with is not you. And that's really like what had happened. So I came back from that trip, and I broke up with my best friend. I stopped dating the guy that I was seeing, and I went into hibernation isolation mode. I was like, I need to like revamp everything, and I'm just gonna, and so I went into solitude. And this is why I keep saying, like, I'm so grateful to be creating a space like No Fun, because in my transition I was alone, and I was like, okay, if I want to be healthy, if I want to, you know, be more intentional about how I do things and where I do things, I can't do it. I have to be alone. No one, I can't be around people, because everyone that I'm around is bad. Like, in my mind, I was like, it's like temptation. And, every outing involves alcohol, and like all of these things that I was trying to step away from. So I went into retreat mode, I went into hibernation mode, and then I started to find things that brought me joy. Like, and then that's where like the inner child work started, where I was like, what did I like when I was a kid? What made me happy? What was fun? And then I started pole dancing and I started going to pole dancing classes, and that was amazing. And that the same way how not being in integrity, intentionality ripples, that one thing rippled to the next, rippled to the next. Before I knew it, I was super involved in the ecstatic dance community in LA, which is a sober, a sober intentional dance community. And then spending time in that space, I ended up going every week and volunteering. And then I ended up going to retreats and workshops and meditations. And then I started like, and then my whole life before I knew it became this entirely different thing that was way more in line with what I wanted to be doing, and it's so much more in integrity. And a lot of those spaces were intentional, sober spaces. So yeah, it was like, ooh, there's like a very clear like timeline of just like pre and post.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. I think we all have those like awakening moments and we all have the like pre and post. Sometimes we have multiple different times this happens in our life. I think it's so beautiful though to just be like, wow, like this is actually not in alignment. And even just taking a moment. And I check in with myself every day around, okay, is this in alignment? How do I feel about this? And I talk about this a lot with my clients too. Like being in alignment is one of the best things you can do for yourself because it ripples. Like if you're in alignment, you're taking action in alignment, things are gonna come to you because you're like, I imagine like you're in the right lane. You know what I mean? Like you're in the lane where things are coming down. If you're gonna miss all the things that are meant for you because you're over here. But if you like get yourself back into that channel, I always imagine like things are coming down onto me. But yeah, your life is gonna change and yours really did. I think it's so beautiful. Wow. So what would you say to people that are kind of wanting to still go out and party, but still want to honor themselves? Like, what helped you in that process in terms of like being able to leave early and not feel bad, being able to say, no, I'm not drinking, even though I'm sure you're still around alcohol now sometimes, right? So, what
All
are
the
some of the
time.
things that you would tell people that are kind of wanting to build that inner strength, I would say?
It starts before the party. It starts before Friday. Like Evan keeps saying this too. Like it starts before Friday night. It starts before you start getting ready for the evening. It starts on Monday. It starts on your daily habits, your daily practices. How can you build it's honestly about safety and trust within yourself. I would say those are the keys to unlocking the kingdom, and it practice it before you test it, right? Like this past summer when I was in Croatia, I went to Ultra, and there was this really interesting moment where I was with a girlfriend of mine, and we had a lot of conversations around this. She's also a coach and in the wellness space, and she, when she started her journey, went really inward and was doing all the things, and coming out to Croatia and being around people doing all the things was it was an edge for her, because she was like, wow, this is the first time I'm being challenged, right? Like I built all these practices, and now I get to test them. And so her and I continued to have conversations around this the entire week we were there, of like, okay, what does it look like? They say like, meditate, like yoga doesn't just happen on the mat. Yoga happens when you're in the middle of traffic and someone just cut you off, right? It's not about how can you stay in integrity and in alignment in a fucking vacuum, but what happens when you go into the spaces that are going to trigger you, that are going to challenge you, and how much work have you done to prove to yourself, right? To not to anyone else. It's about self-trust. Can I trust myself to honor where I'm at? Can I trust myself to listen to my intuition? Can I trust myself to check in and listen and like hear it, listen to it, and act upon it? So
Mm,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, no, it really comes down to your daily habits and like how you're building that inner trust on a daily basis, right? People can break their own trust all the time when you don't stick to your word, when you do things out of alignment, when you aren't honoring yourself. And so that's a daily practice. Like you're building that muscle. So when you go to the party and when you're tempted by this, that, you're like, oh no, I'm strong. Like I've been doing the reps, you know what I mean? So I love that analogy because that's something I really emphasize too. Like getting the reps in. It's a daily practice, it's a daily habit we're building to build that internal strength. And so I love that. I'm curious, how much better has partying got for you? Like what has really shifted for you since you've really been practicing this intentionality and just like, yeah, partying the way you are?
I remember things now. I I when I even talk about like these previous experiences, they're blur to me. And maybe it's because there were substances involved, but I don't even think it, I think it had to do with the fact that I wasn't even there, that I was so disconnected from my body and from myself that these amazing, incredible experiences that I had, I wasn't present for. And now every single amazing moment, I am so intentional about presence and about really being there. And so when I look back on these memories, they're so clear and I can see them vividly and I can feel them. And I typically will take moments, you know, at shows, like I said, where like, I'll close my eyes and I'll put my hand on my heart and one on my stomach and I'll just breathe in. And for me, that's like it's my version of let me bottle this moment. Let me bottle this feeling. Let me like feel it as much as I possibly can and like remember it, especially when things get hard, like especially when I'm going through these waves of just struggling and feeling lost and feeling like what's the point? I'm like, okay, but can I remember when I didn't like, can I drop back to that moment of like infinite possibility and beauty and bliss and just remember that that also exists and that right now I feel this way. They always say like don't believe yourself when you're, when you're feeling down. It's like you've got these like the opposite of rose colored glasses on, right? If you're feeling like shit, everything looks shitty, but if you remind yourself, "Oh, I just have the shit vision on. I could just take it off." Remember what beauty and ugh, like just yeah, coming back to that. But yeah, it's a great question.
That's
It's a
so
really good
beautiful.
question.
That's so beautiful. I think it's the presence part is everything to me as well. Like there's
Yeah.
so many moments that are so epic. Like epic when you're
Amazing. Like
going out at
insane.
the festivals or with friends or like you ran into someone that like ends up being someone you didn't know or like all the things and like not remembering that like it is such a I don't know, I really feel like it's such a big part of your life that you're missing because these moments happen and like not just when you're partying but like in your regular life too if you're not really
Even
being present
there.
or just like being intentional about the moment. So presence is huge for me. I love that you how you explained it was just so beautiful. Just like taking the moment, like really connecting and like snapping that, to save it for later. Oh, that's so beautiful. Okay, we're gonna wrap up soon, but I would love to hear like any other last thoughts or any other things that you'd like to share with people around partying, around, yeah, just how to enhance not just their experience partying, but their day-to-day life, or yeah, whatever you feel called to share right now.
Yeah. I mean, I'll definitely plug, like what we're doing at No Fun. And if you're looking for this is a space that is calling to you and you don't know how to drop into it, I'll also plug you, like find us. We exist. Like let us, I would say the number one thing that was hard for me growing up and just being I just always knew that there was more. And I never quite saw examples of that more that I knew existed. And so I would say seeking, whether it's by joining programs or participating in events or joining online communities, however and wherever and whenever you can align yourself with like minded individuals, it will like expedite your growth because we're not meant to do this alone. It's hard. Like this journey is difficult and I've talked about it so much, but it's just because I have been going through these waves and I question myself all the time where I'm like, who am I to lead people, to guide people if I'm going through these moments? And I remember I'm going through these moments so that I can understand when people come to me struggling with XYZ, I'm like, I get it. I have been there, I go there, and I know how to bring myself back out of there. And and I'm able to do that through community. I'm able to do that through mentorship. I'm able to do that through amazing people. And I will say on that, a little cautionary tale. Be discerning of who you choose to work with. Be discerning with who you choose to party with. Be discerning in general. And if you're not familiar with discernment, it's just really, again, honoring and checking in with, like, do I have a weird feeling about this person, or is this person truly who they say they are? Are they showing up in integrity with what they speak? And checking, especially in these spiritual spaces, a lot of people are well intentioned but are very, very much stuck in their ego. And just being careful. Just be careful out there, guys. Because yeah, it's especially people that are seeking to grow and to expand and to learn. It can be challenging to find the right communities and to find the right leaders and guides and shamans and all the things. So yeah, stick to what feels good in your gut. Only you know what's best for you, and honor and learn how to tune in, and your inner guides will scream yay or nay to you, I promise.
Truly, they're always there screaming. It's just about you tuning
You
in.
gotta hear it though. You gotta
You just
tune
gotta
in a
hear
little
it.
bit.
Yeah, just gotta hear it. But no, that's so beautiful. And like one thing you said that really resonated is like there is more and there's better and there's alternative ways to get what you want and what you're looking for, and you don't have to do it alone. Like we're meant to do it together in community. That's why I love what you're building, like what I love what I'm building. Like there's so many beautiful ways to create what you want within community, feeling supported, feeling loved, feeling accepted, feeling like you're part of something bigger. And it's like it's so beautiful. So I love that. I always ask this question, the last question I ask my guests, and it's what lights you up the most?
Ooh, I would say plugging into other people. I I get really lit up by other people that are on a similar path, that I'm inspired by, that are doing really cool things. And when I quite literally, I mean, I'm a generator, so I quite literally need to plug into my manifesting generators in order to activate my sparkle and my shine. But seeing people like you that are living in integrity, living in an authenticity, and putting good out into this world, and having these conversations, like, I feel like I'm on top of the world after being in spaces like this. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. That makes sense because I'm a Manny Gen, so that totally makes sense.
I
And
gotta plug into my Manny Jeds. I need to, like, I always see a little, like, like a little outlet plug.
a little outlet. Oh, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Please let people know where they can find you, what you're up to, and I'll have all your information down below as well.
Yeah, but best place is Instagram at Amanda Laurena, Laurena. If you're interested in following No Fun, we're at KNOWFUN_. And my future Amanda Fest platforms will be announced on my personal Instagram. So if you follow that now, you'll get to be on the ground floor of what I'm building. So really excited to have you guys join.
I'm so happy we're connected. I love what you're doing. I love what you're all about. Keep spreading the good party vibes. If you're listening to this and you love what she shared, go check her out. Go follow her. If you want to DM either of us about your takeaways, about whatever she shared that really resonated with you, please let us know because we love hearing from you. And as always, it's been a pleasure to be on this podcast with you, Amanda. Thank you so much. Go eat more plants and do more dance. And I'll see y'all in the next episode. Bye.